Good morning and welcome back to Tuesday of Holy Week as the story continues with Jesus as he heads towards the cross. Today's reflection on Holy Tuesday is called the Escalating Conflict. It is now Tuesday morning, March the 30th AD 33. The disciples point to the withering fig tree that Jesus had condemned the day before. Jesus gives his disciples a simple lesson from it. Have faith in God. In particular, he says, if they have undoubting faith, they can throw even the mountains into the sea. Now, if the disciples had ears to hear, they would recognize that Jesus is talking about more than seemingly magical powers and about condemning trees and crumbling mountains. Jesus is talking about realities bigger than this. Jesus gives a short lesson to his disciples and mentions how faith may move a mountain, but he also teaches them this. Whenever you stand praying, forgive. If you have anything against anyone, forgive them, so that your Father also, who is in heaven, may forgive you. Simply forgive, he says. Jesus reminds them that failing to forgive looms as a bigger obstacle to answering prayer than huge mountains. The disciples will soon face great challenges to their faith and their ability to forgive. Will they remember this withered tree on the road from Bethany, how it was all show and bore no fruit of forgiveness? As they approached the holy city, the events from the day before could not have been far from their minds. As Jesus enters the Temple Mount, crowds gather to hear him teach, and the chief priests, scribes, and elders, feeling aggrieved by Jesus' public challenge to them yesterday, they plot to trick Jesus. They waste no time in making their move. They will try to lay 4 traps to ensnare their adversary. Trap 1. By whose authority, they demand to know, had Jesus carried out his actions the day before? How dare him chase people out of the temple? By whose authority did he do that? Jesus doesn't take the bait. Instead, he turns the tables on them with a question of his own. Was the baptism of John the Baptist from heaven or from man? He asks. They think for a moment. If they respond from heaven, the next question is obvious. Then why don't you believe the one about whom John testifies, namely Jesus himself? Why do they not believe in Jesus if they believe the baptism of John was from heaven? But if their answer is that John's baptism was from humankind, they risk alienating the crowds that hold John the Baptist in high esteem as a prophet. Jesus then offers them 3 parables. These are short stories about 2 sons, murderous tenants, and a guest at a wedding feast, all driving home the point that all the characters in these parables, just like the chief priests, are rejecting grace and truth in the service of hypocritical self-righteousness. Trap 2, whose allegiance? So the chief priests and the elders try a new tactic. They send Pharisees, a Jewish sect known for its zeal for the law, and Herodians, those loyal to King Herod's dynasty, to ask Jesus a question. Is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar or not? They ask. If Jesus answers yes, he shatters people's expectations of him as a Messiah who will overthrow Roman rule. If he says no, he can be arrested for inciting revolt against the Roman oppressors. But Jesus is having none of their games and deftly evades the either-or dilemma. The denarius, a Roman coin, has Caesar's image on it. As long as Caesar is in power, it is appropriate to pay taxes to him. And we are also to give God the things that are God's. Since we are made in God's image, we owe everything, all that we have and all that we are, to him. So, Jesus says, pay your taxes and worship God. Track 3. Whose wife in the resurrection? After Jesus had silenced the Pharisees and the Herodians, another group joined the plot to get Jesus arrested by trying to trick him. They goad Jesus to try and ridicule his belief in the resurrection by asking a trick question about marriage in heaven. Again, Jesus remains calm and reminds them that they do not understand the scriptures because there is no marriage in heaven. God is a God of the living, not the dead. Like the others, the Sadducees' smirks turn to marvel as they grow silent. But their angers fester because they have failed to embarrass, trick, or humiliate Jesus. Track 4, which commandment? Now the Pharisees pulled in their big guns, the smartest of people, if you like. They sent for an expert in the law to question Jesus. Which of God's commands is the greatest, they ask. Jesus summarizes his answer in a word: love, to God and for neighbor. But Jesus then turns the tables and starts to question their knowledge and expertise in the scriptures and the law. When he asked them a question about Psalm 110, verse 1, and how the Messiah can be David's Lord, no one was able to answer him a word. Nor from that day did anyone dare to ask him any more questions. Jesus then launches a lengthy, scathing critique of the scribes and Pharisees, pronouncing 7 woes of judgment upon those hypocrites and blind guides. This full-scale verbal assault removes all doubt concerning Jesus' intentions, agenda, and aims. He has no desire to ally himself with the current leadership. He has come to overthrow their corrupt, oppressive authority. There's no way both sides can survive the escalating conflict. Jesus will assume power, or Jesus will die. With another tension-filled day behind them, Jesus and the disciples begin to head back to Bethany. They stop on the Mount of Olives to rest, giving them a wonderful view of Jerusalem as the sun begins to set behind it in the west. The disciples marvel at the size and the grandeur of these impressive buildings, but Jesus tells them, a day is soon coming when not a single stone will be left upon another. He goes on to explain that his followers will experience increasing persecution and tribulation leading up to the final day of judgment. But their task is to remain vigilant and stay strong in their faith. Tuesday is now done, but Friday is coming. This is not the gentle Jesus, meek and mild, some of us have learned about as children. This is the real historical Jesus, fully in control as he responds with grace and truth to traps on all sides from several different groups. He knows what he is doing, and he knows what is coming. Every word and every step is for the fame of his Father's name and for the salvation of those willing to pick up their cross and follow him. Tuesday evening approaches. The sun will set around 7 o'clock in the evening, beginning the new day according to the Jewish calendar. Jesus and his disciples make their return to Jerusalem. Tomorrow will be a new day to confound, to turn things upside down as Jesus continues to fulfill the eternal plan that will take him to Calvary. See you tomorrow for Wednesday of Holy Week. Goodbye.